What's up? I'm pretty grateful that I have this microphone for 2 reasons. I'm feeling a little sick today, so I'm glad I don't have to be a little extra vocal. Also, I don't have to worry about what to do with my hands while I'm filming this, because I can just hold the mic. This is a little weird for me still. I'm not used to being in front of a camera. I thought that this light would help with the vibes. It keeps changing and it is a little distracting, so if it's distracting you too, I'm sorry, but it's gonna stay. It'll be a little quirk for today. I'm just gonna start out by reading this journal entry that I wrote probably about a week ago, and then I spent probably 5 or 6 days responding to it. I'm just gonna jump right in and then give a little context when I finish. I always struggle with reading the Gospels because it's apparent to me that the Jesus I pray to and the Jesus in the Gospels are not the same person. When I pray, sometimes I feel like I'm talking to a complete stranger. When you see a stranger on the street, what is your natural impulse? To warmly embrace them and pour out your heart and soul onto them with full confidence that they'll accept it? Or do you draw back because you don't truly know them, or what they would do if you were completely 100% naked and vulnerable in front of them? Suddenly, prayer becomes a guessing game of who I'm talking to. This has led me on a journey of really wanting to know who God is, which has been so beautiful. But I can't always be upfront and say that's the vision all the time without any doubt. I do pull back sometimes, because at times, like right now, I'm afraid of what I will find out. I'm afraid my fears about who God is will be true. I was looking in my Bible, craving intimacy with Him. Sometimes I get into this impatient page turning, Lord, where am I going? Where am I going? I eventually stumbled across Luke 13:26. We ate and drank in your presence, and you taught in our streets. Only for Jesus to respond by saying he doesn't know them, calling them evildoers, as they failed to enter through the narrow door of salvation despite their familiarity with him. And instantly I felt like I was looking in a mirror. I saw myself. Someone who only attempted salvation but got no further. Attempted to love the Lord with all her heart, soul, mind, strength, and just couldn't fit the bill, pass the test, want it enough, be about it enough. A girl... I'm not going to include that part. Do you ever feel like you're just something rotten inside the Lord's mouth and you're petrified of the day that he spits you out? How is there supposed to be intimacy in this when I feel like I'm just being handed pieces to put together on my own? How can I do what's being commanded of me when I don't even know what entirely I'm being commanded of? Why would Paul tell us that all who call will be saved, but Jesus would say something completely different? How narrow is this road? What kind of God would do that? There's no stability here. I feel as though I'm under a king who is completely unpredictable. So now I'm acting unpredictable, sporadic, cynical, apathetic, like something in me has died because it has. Like an earthquake has shaken my house and cracked the foundation, and now toxins are seeping through the floors and infecting the entire place. Like an IV drip of suspicion and second guessing making its way to my bloodstream and rewriting my DNA. As I continue to talk, I'm still going to be reading off of a script. If that seems questionable to you, don't worry, it's also questionable to me. I still don't know what to do with these questions, so I still find myself going to other things to cope at times. But what I will say is, this experience is traumatic in of itself, because you have an impression of God that is horrifying. But sometimes our reaction to the Bible and to God in general can also stem from past trauma. Nobody really talks about this, especially in traditional church settings. Religious people, which when I say religion, I'm just going to give it a very clear and cut definition that I'm going to use for this video. I'm referring to people that think they still have to earn something from God, that they're still earning his favor, his acceptance, his love. These group of people that struggle with that, they don't like these questions. Because they are also traumatized. They just take a lot of pride in covering it up. It's like, no, I'm fine. Everything is fine. There's zero confession, there's zero humility. They think that they always have to give themselves to people wrapped up nicely, like with a pretty little bow on top. And because that's all they've known, that's also how they think they have to come before the Lord. And I don't want to accuse anyone, really, except for myself. Maybe I will be first in line jumping up and down admitting that I struggle with this, because it needs to be talked about. How many of us are walking around professing Christ but living our lives like we believe something completely different? I know that people tend to use that description to describe people who do all sorts of stuff, drinking, smoking, sleeping around, whatever it is, and thinking that everything is still fine just because they go to church on Sundays. We can also 100% ask that question of the people who just can't breathe, who feel like they're being crushed under this press of expectation. They have no blessed assurance, because in their minds it's still dependent on them. And even though everything looks good on paper, they might be on the praise team, working with kids, whatever it is, internally walls are closing in on them. It's horrifying to be in that state internally. In their minds, effort and striving, not engagement, striving, there's a difference between the two. They're still earning Jesus. There has been no mind renewal. And mind renewal, I used to hear about mind renewal a lot and get really pissed because I just didn't really know what it meant. So I'm on the Blue Letter Bible app if anyone is curious, or the Blue Letter Bible website, I should say, but they have an app too. So renewal in the Greek language translates to anakinosis. I just butchered that probably, but it basically means a renewal, a renovation, a complete change for the better. So we swing that back to here when we talk about people earning the gospel that has been freely given to them because there has been no mind renewal. The notion that mental and spiritual health are separate categories, one can't overlap with the other, can be really misleading. They're not identical, trust me, but thinking that their spiritual is over here, mental is over here, it's not how we were designed. A lot of our thoughts come from our identities as people. Like, what do we believe about ourselves? So in the book of Romans, Paul explains this mental rewiring, renewal, a complete change for the better, so that we are not conformed to this world. And this might sound like more of an opinion, but to be more descriptive, the reason that we need mind renewal is because the gospel and just the way of the kingdom of God, it's flipped completely upside down compared to the ways of this world. We once were of the world, now we're just in it. The first will be last and the last will be first. What have we gotten right? For God to come down as a man and flip it completely upside down. Everything you value, put it down. Everything you don't value, pick it up. This is the way. But we also need mind renewal because of what we have been conditioned to, what this world has conditioned us to. Often from our childhoods, but I don't want to restrict it to just childhoods, because our entire lives we have heard things, experienced things, became things that God never intended for us in the first place. Things that slowly chipped away at our innocence and drove us further, hit us harder into completely false identities. Many of us were taught love on a condition. Not purposefully, maybe not intentionally, but we were. And if we broke that condition, that love was drawn away from us. It wasn't there to stay and transform us. It wasn't there for us at our lowest. It left us on our own to figure it out. If we wanted that access back, if we wanted that love back, then we had to do better. That's how we were wired. That's how we were developed. And this is the product that we are now. I don't mean to make it sound like we're robotic, but we can tell how we're going to operate based on the way that we were developed. So let's paint a picture then. What are we going to do now in our relationships going forward, now that this is all we've known, is something conditional? We act like something is going to be taken away from us. So how do you think we're going to act with the Lord? With my relationship with God, sometimes I would feel like a bomb was just about to go off and I was just desperate for more time on the clock. Anything I could do right, would maybe earn me something, 5 more minutes, I don't know. But I was never safe I could never rest. I didn't want to talk about it with anybody because nobody had ever talked about it to me before. I didn't know this was something that could be helped even. Like if I can't even find security in here, then what am I going to find security in? Anyway, going back to insecurity, when you're insecure in any relationship, that means you're seeing threats that aren't really there. You're placing meaning in words, but that's not really what they meant at all. When we do that with the Bible, there's actually a technical term for that. It's called eisegesis, and it's when we place our own notions, our own pre-existing beliefs onto the word. And so now that's just almost like a confirmation bias that we have going in when we read the Word of God. But to make it clear, I am saying that insecurities can cause us to place meaning in the Lord's Word that aren't really there. We're just afraid it's there, so we act like it is. Sort of like this hypervigilance, walking on eggshells. Does any of this sound familiar? Like, are you guys resonating with this at all? Because this was my life for a really long time. And it was a total lie. It was a lie from hell, but I didn't know it was a lie. And when you don't know a lie, that's a problem, because now we are believing things about God that aren't true. It's a deception about Him, and therefore it's a deception about yourself also. If you seeing that playing out in your relationships here on earth, like if you can sort of do an evaluation and be like, yeah, that is how I am with my relationships here. Like I am afraid that something's, gonna be stripped away from me if I do something wrong. Well, how do you think that's going to impact your relationship with God? Why wouldn't it? Because He's all-knowing and all-loving and all-powerful. He is all of those things, but like, what's different about you? And I just want to let you take a second, let myself take a second and be like, nothing is different. Because now we're in His presence, and all of this stuff that was once in darkness is now in the light. All of this stuff that we struggle with, pride, insecurities, anger, nothing's different about us there just because we're in the Lord's presence. If anything, it makes us worse, because He's now able to expose everything from an all-knowing perspective, whereas with other people, they just have a few pieces here and there. And so I say that brings me to, how does the Father respond to that? We have all of this stuff, and we don't really know what to do with it, and it's intimidating to see on ourselves. What does He do with us? Since we have all of this brokenness, all of this evil that resides in us, He stays. He doesn't withhold anything from us. And where we think we would get reprimand and condemnation and all of these horrible things, we get grace. Learning that on my walk has been one of the most obvious truths, yet one of the hardest to swallow. Because, how could it be? But it's true, This is a love that we could never comprehend. We might want to run away, we might want to turn our face, but He doesn't. He doesn't even budge, He doesn't even move. He knows where we've been, what we've done, what we're going to do. But there's nothing conditional about His love. Do you see that? When you read the scriptures? Because we know that the Bible is a story of God redeeming His people for His glory. It's not about us. It's about Him. It's about what He did. It's about what He's going to do. And despite of us. Through us and despite us. If that's how you see the Lord, that's how you're going to see your real identity. This is now something that's completely separate and primary over any human circumstance. Now, you're not denying those circumstances. You're not shoving them down. The church has made that mistake a lot, but you will rejoice in the fact that the Word of God has authority over them anyways. I'm going to sit differently. Ow! That hurt. Oh! We see what sort of relationship we have with God when we see how we interact with His Word. Because we know that not only was the Word with God, but that the Word is God. The way that you relate to these scriptures, I'm pointing to my Bible, it's right down there on my floor. That's how you relate to Him, because that's Him speaking, Primarily, He's talking here, not riding in the clouds or through the TV. Sorry, my leg fell asleep. Jesus. Okay. And primarily it's through what He's already spoken. I don't understand why we would look for God in the arbitrary things like he's something difficult to find, when he has very clearly made himself known and seen and heard here. This word is God. He has already spoken. He doesn't change. He has already provided every single thing that we need. It's just a matter of getting in there and, peeling back the curtains, peeling back the ideas that we thought were correct about God, peeling back our insecurities in our relationship with God. Every misconception that we have, every false ideology that we have about him, we have them. I have them. It's not about our ability to do it perfect. But every misconception that we have is just an opportunity to get to know him deeper. It's not a puzzle to solve as much as it is a person to know. And if you're finding that to be complicating, then there's probably some sort of burden on you, probably a religious burden that he never intended for you in the first place. So what is it? Also, get rid of it. The amount of people I see on the internet only describing a God that is unpredictable and confusing. It grieves me because I've been there, and it made me so afraid. Like, it made me want to die. Like, there were days, there were nights where I was just like, Lord, like, please don't wake me up tomorrow. Like, this is bad. This is so bad, and I don't really feel like there's any coming back from this. Yes, we don't always know what God is doing. There will always be a mysterious aspect. If we did know everything, then there would be no need for trust. And trust is a beautiful thing that I have with him now. But I have that trust because I know that he's not just going to do whatever he wants. I mean, he could, I guess, but he's not. He's going to do what he promised us. This is trust. Those promises, they do not rest on our human will or exertion. They rest on his grace. They rest on his unmerited favor for his people that love and obey his son. That favor has nothing to do with our behavior, our words, our actions, how we're feeling in the morning. Are we ready to commune with him and dig into what he's saying? Are we ambitious about it? Or do we wake up and feel nothing and we don't even feel like praying? I don't know. But either way, his favor doesn't change. And he assures us that it is the Father's good pleasure to give us access to the kingdom. He doesn't do anything reluctantly. He doesn't do it because he feels like he has to. It's a good pleasure. It's grace. A lot of people, they don't want to go deeper. The church has not fostered an environment where we can go deeper with people that we trust and are going to hold us accountable. So even if it looks like they're moving up externally, a lot of the times they're still stagnant on the inside or even declining. It makes me think of his words, "I never knew you." When you give him a chance to actually know who you are, what you're really battling, that's the only thing that can dig you out of the hell that you're in right now, When he searches us and he finds stuff that was never meant for us in the first place, and he says, "Hey, I never wanted this for you. This is just something that you picked up along the way because you thought you needed it. You didn't know me first. You didn't know me when you had this thing. You don't need it anymore because I'm watching it destroy you." That's his heart. I've never done anything like this before. I know for a fact there are probably some things I didn't mention and I could have. I just kept building and building and building on this thing, and then I was like, okay, when are you gonna stop building and actually do it? I hope you guys are okay. I hope this was something that helped you breathe a little easier. I don't really know what to say now. I guess we're wrapping it up. Sorry about the light again. Okay, I'll talk to you guys later. I love you. Goodbye.